Hello, all. Today we have an important guest because yesterday in the newspaper there was something with respect to housing and rental and something. So today we have with us architect Prakriti Mehta, who is teaching at Narsi Munji College in Mumbai in the Department of Architecture. And she has completed her masters in urban design from SPA New Delhi. So today she's going to throw a lot of light on a very important topic on which she's done a paper, and that is the commentary on affordable rental housing complexes under PMAYU. She's going to tell us what PMAYU is. She's going to tell us what affordable renting is, what housing is, and all those questions. But before that, I want to welcome her. So how are you, ma'am? Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for joining. And I want to straight away jump into the questions. I have this very important question with respect to we've seen this pandemic happen, and we saw last year we saw images of people just rushing back home. All the migrants that were in Delhi, people who used to drive us home, people who used to clean our homes, people who used to do all the work which we are doing right now on our own. So do you think that sudden surge of people going away could be stopped in some way? What do you think?
Um, okay, so I'll take this question in three. I'll take this question in three parts. So the first part being, if you're saying that the sudden return could be stopped, yes, it could have been stopped. It could have been made more organized, much more systematic, much more predictable in nature. The next one would be: would there be any reason for them to stop at all? I feel no, because I think the essentials were not in place at all. And the third bit is when you say that could they be stopped as wishful thinking? Yes, of course they could have been, had the provisions were made in advance for them, very well in advance for them.
Okay. Thank you. So going ahead, asking you regarding this, as we spoke about the title of today's talk, that is this PMAYU. What is this PMAYU? I can open it up and say Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban, but what is the essence of it? Can you tell us about what is the affordable renting part of it, and what does the government want out of this PMAY? And probably it's not the newest housing policy that we have. So what's the essence, and what can we learn from it, and what difference can it make to India?
Okay, so the reverse migration that happened of the urban poor and the migrant during COVID-19 pandemic has put forward this need for providing ease of living through access to dignified affordable housing, which is close to the migrants and the urban poor's workplace. So, under that vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat and as a sub scheme of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, like you mentioned, the urban, and the Mission for Housing for All 2022, the Affordable Rental Housing Complex, that's the ARHC, was announced in 2020 in public and private sectors under two models of approach with certain fiscal incentives to both. Now, the first one being utilizing the existing government funded vacant houses in the city by converting them into ARFCs under PPP mode as a centrally sponsored scheme. And the second one is construction, operation, maintenance of affordable rental housing complexes by public and private entities on their own available vacant land as a central sector scheme. So that's what is the new scheme that's come under the Housing for All, PMAY, and the larger vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Okay. So, you spoke about ARHC. That's the affordable rental housing complexes developed under the scheme. So, are they existing? Do they have to be developed? What is the scheme? And, how can this scheme reduce the burden of infrastructure, or burden on the infrastructure of the city, ma'am?
So, like I initially mentioned, while I was trying to, state the objective of ARHC, which is to ease the living while they are closer to their workplaces. So that means that the proximity between their live and work area, and perhaps also their recreational areas, would be the proximity would be much more closer. This was this would in turn mean that the number of trips that are generated would be considerably low, and this would in turn reduce the pressure on the transport infrastructure at one end, which requires people to move from one end of the city to the other end of the city. So I think that's one. The second one being that this scheme also gives us an opportunity to predict and plan and design for an appropriate estimation of requirements and optimized utilization of city trunk infrastructure, like water supply, sewerage, drainage, electricity, street lights, telecom, all of those things. So I think that way it reduces the burden of the city substantially.
Okay. So, ma'am, but when we speak about this rental housing thing, when we speak about housing yojanaएं or housing, projects in India, I'm sure this is not the first time we ever thought about such a scheme. India has been there for 70 years and more, and we've had so many schemes coming and going. So, have there been attempts in the past to do something like this? Has it worked? Has it not worked? Has it failed? Can you tell us about it?
So historically, the Indian housing policies have been directed towards ownership. Rental housing has been a passed over subject for almost 72 years since independence, largely speaking, with no policy framework to accommodate what I can quantify today as 21 million urban rental households. I can give you some statistics if that can if that can be understood in the larger sense under various yojanas and various missions of the government, to understand why is this really needed and was it really needed in the larger sense. Now, as per Census 2011 data, roughly speaking, there are about 11 million houses that were vacant in urban areas despite there being a massive housing shortage. In 2014, there were about 1 lakh houses under JNU RRM, which is Jawaharlal Nehru uh, National Urban Renewal Mission, or Rajiv Awas Yojana, that's RAY, that are still lying vacant in 159 cities as what the ARHC operational guidelines mention. Now, the scheme of PMAY has been rapidly moving towards achieving the vision of creating Pakka houses by 2022 under Housing for All 22, that the mission. Now, as per the progress data in August 2020, out of 1 crore approved projects, there are 66 lakhs um, that have been grounded for construction and about 35 lakhs roughly, which have been completed and delivered. A large portion of this has been lying vacant due to various reasons like poor maintenance, vacant stock, poor maintenance of vacant stock, dilapidated state of buildings, lack of incentives, lack of affordability. The private developer barely sees it as a profitable opportunity and does not guarantee them a steady income, even to the landlords. And affordability is a concern of ownership of housing for EWS specifically, or the urban poor, as we call them. The housing prices are relatively high. They are pushed by higher construction and transactional costs. The access to finance is available, but then the beneficiary cannot avail it as such. The key concern is to provide shelter to the poorest who's barely earning enough to survive and save and send it back to his village, to his family members. The income of the daily wage earner is just enough for himself to sustain in a lot of parts of the country. And an investment for ownership as such of a house may not be a priority and may not even be a possibility for them. So there have been a lot of attempts, which has been primarily focused on ownership, and I think rental housing schemes is the first time that we are seeing as a scheme that's come out for people to work with.
Absolutely. I mean, so there's definitely novelty in this scheme because it's the first time we ever thought about rental on a national level. So, big deal. I mean, government has done, taken this new step, and I think it's going to help in a very, very constructive way. And we see housing in isolation because most of them left not because they didn't have a house. They had a house in a slum, but that was still a house. The reason was for them, that they had no food to eat, they had no employment. So can we see housing in isolation, that okay, because they have a rented house, they'll be still staying if there is a situation like a pandemic? So what are your views on this?
Um, that I think you gave the answer in your question itself.
Oh,
So when you were using two different terms, one was housing, one was a house. By common sense, of course, a housing cannot perform in isolation. A housing would mean basics of roti, kapda, makan, the food, clothing, shelter as bare essentials, which are equally available to everyone. And all of it put together is housing.
yeah.
A house is just a component of it, which is the shelter.
Okay. So you mean, so does that mean that the scheme is going to take care of the employment also, or the scheme only takes care of the house?
It could keep, I mean, so specifically speaking, the scheme does not take care of livelihood, as
Yeah.
we may call it,
Yeah.
as of now. It does not take care of availability or access to food as such. That's
Okay.
not what the scheme is all about.
Understood. Now, a lot of these people who go, thank you for the answer, but a lot of people who go back, they kind of are in a state that they are used to living in the houses, used to living in, these loose slum areas. So a lot of attempt has been made to, give them, pakka houses in Mumbai, especially. There were a lot of attempts in giving them slum redevelopment houses. Can they ever be, used to the kind of houses that we give them, because they are used to, that slum which they maintain, they make themselves, they're used to the kind of fabric that is there. Will they feel comfortable in the kind of houses that we give them as architects and as builders? What are your views on this?
Okay, talking about comfort is probably a factor that we as architects and designers can work with. It's an important point that you've kind of brought up, that will they call spaces their own? Will there be a sense of belongingness or not? And that is exactly something that it's not just them, but we also seek the same when we arrive at a new place or a space. So we need to build strategies to ensure that the migrant, urban poor, or whomever you mentioned at the beginning as an introduction, that they're domestic help, they're laborers, they are a part of our everyday lives. We need to start making them identify themselves. The identity as such needs to be very, very clear for them within the city. If the objective is that the government wants them to be permanent residents of the city, we are talking about migration and how the urban population is increasing, etc. So if the objective is that we want to welcome them, we must make them feel comfortable as possible, or for us. Or on the other hand, the other way out that I can think is, like a lot of Asian migrant policies which state that if you're moving from one district to the other district, you are bound by a contract which is meant for maybe 2 years or 3 years. And once the contract is over, you auto return to your base. And while you're staying within that area or that city or that space where they were under a contract, they are provided with everything that's essential. So the policy is very clear that we are only working with you temporarily on a contractual basis. But if you want to identify yourself within the space, then I think the strategies need to be very, very different.
Okay. Thank you. Ma'am, now I went to New York once, and New York, there are these housing for a certain race. like there is segregation of like this particular housing is for a particular race, because there were a particular socio-economic strata at a particular time, and these were derogatorily called ghettos at a time, at some time. So these gated communities that we plan to make in India, will they not become centers of crime? Because you'll have all these people in these properly built buildings, and there'll be common areas there. Is there no scope of having a lot of criminal activity in these kind of buildings that we're going to create, just like there was crime rise in America when the ghettos were made in the housing schemes that were built for a particular race in America?
I would want to understand crime first of all from a very different perspective. Crime, as we see currently, is not something which is absent in our country as such, right? It still exists there, and I feel it generates out of a reaction to something. If I'm made to feel different, if I'm made to feel the other from the city, if I don't have the right to speak, if I don't have the right to represent myself, if I don't identify myself within the city, I will definitely feel the need to express somewhere and somehow. Coming to your point of ghettos being made based on race or community, it's not something which is new to India. Community based based places of living is not at all a new concept to India. Religion based communities, if you see the other Parsi colony in Bombay, or you look at the mills worker based community in Chawls in Bombay, or even if you go historically further ahead, Shah Jahan's Delhi was also delineated based on occupations, and that's how the administrative units are made. And likewise, there were so many more other cities which were based on occupation. So once the resident starts feeling one with the city, when the life of that person becomes a lot more predictable, his standard of living, by that I don't just mean light and ventilation, but I also mean so many more things, in terms of open spaces, community gathering spaces, interactive spaces, people for everyone to engage. Once we as architects start designing for them very, very consciously, looking and observing their daily life, and emulating it, formulating it, tweaking it, would I feel that crime isn't really something that cannot be addressed.
Okay. So it's something that we already have, and we cannot pinpoint it to the housing. If there is some problem with respect to crime, we'll have to solve crime as a larger issue, is what you're saying. And and if we
No, I mean to say that crime is something that can be addressed through design.
Okay, the other way,
And through design, you can bring in a lot more harmony, a lot more peace within the spaces,
Okay.
within housing. Yeah.
Okay. So since you've just given this great recommendation that design can help bringing harmony, so there are some more recommendations which I read in the paper that we were supposed to talk about in this conversation. That paper that was put in the Shelter magazine, which in the prestigious Hoodco Shelter magazine. So there were some recommendations in the last page of that paper that I read. The paper's link, by the way, is in the description for all the viewers to read. What were the recommendations that you gave, and can you just relate it to the context that we have created till now and tell the viewers about the recommendations and why they should be followed immediately?
Right. I think, thank you for mentioning about the paper and making it a little more easier for the viewers to go through the set of recommendations. The paper was written in 2020, which is last year, and since then there has been a great deal of progress, if I may say, under the scheme, and things which are ancillary to the scheme as well. So beyond the recommendations that are already there in the paper, I feel this has a greater opportunity as a scheme, which needs to be experimented first of all and reworked periodically to suit the needs. It's a first step that we've taken after so many years, whereas so many countries developing are, have already identified and dealt with a similar situation decades back. So there's a lot of learning through experience that we have at hand. We must use it and use it to our advantage and use it for our further workings. Two of my recommendations have, from the research paper, have already been thought of in some senses, one of them being the overhaul of the draft Tenancy Act, the Model Tenancy Act, to suit the needs of rental housing, as one of which has been approved by the Union Cabinet 2 days back. And the other one is the was addressed by the Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi in one of his speeches, to gradually process the rental house into an owned house after completion of the scheme. So what does that mean? That after 25 years, once the scheme is completed, the migrants or the urban poor have the opportunity to own the house, and the developer has the opportunity and has a buyer at hand. So those two are already in process, I believe, which is great. The other one, the other important one, which I feel should be looked at in the ARFC is, since the ARFC already allows permission to change the land use uh, the, for developing such rental housing. So it is necessary to ensure that the interface between the rental housing and the compatibility of the adjacent or the interface with the land use which is adjacent to it. In case in case otherwise, if there is a non-compatible land use, it could be a lot more hazardous in nature. And one of the last recommendations that I feel strongly needs to be looked at is, we're assuming the outcome of the ARFC scheme to be of a high density development in urban areas. So it is necessary for us to design and plan for adequate infrastructure, and its contingencies need to be predicted and planned for, and should be an integral part of the city designing process and the planning process.
Great,
I think,
great.
yeah, largely.
Yeah. So I hope these recommendations that you've sent, that you've written down in that paper, all the viewers read it, and I've already sent it to the right places. So I hope they get soon notified. And for all the viewers, the model tenancy law, which is an outcome of ma'am's recommendation, is right in the description below. You can just read it. It's already uploaded in the ministry's website, that is the Urban Affairs and Housing Ministry. So ma'am, what is the future in this area? For all the viewers, what are the, what is your like message to the viewers? What is the future in this area, and where do you see this thing happening? What are the opportunities is going to open for the architect? So tell us your final conclusion about this, uh, the whole talk we've done today. So go ahead, ma'am.
So, okay, this question was very led. So I feel there is opportunity for everyone that you just mentioned, for architects, for designers, for developers, for the city government in general, for the vacant stock, for people, citizens. I think there is a whole lot of opportunity for everyone. As an architect or a designer, I feel um, it's very necessary to kind of experience the whole process of rental housing and how does that perform or that function, to experience that, and at the same time learn from the experiences of the past. We've the Model Tenancy Act is not something which is new. It's been there in the pipeline for a very, very long time. Uh, Before that, you also had the Rent Control Act, and that also had an implication on the way the city and operation and maintenance of rental housings was in some ways. So it's nothing new as such, but there is a lot more to learn from our past experiences and build on it. And likewise, at the same time, like I said, uh, you are welcoming somebody into the city. So it's very necessary as architects or urban designers to um, design for them, making them feel important within the city. They are important. We cannot do without them. They can't do without us. There is an interdependency. It's not just that they are dependent on us for work. So that sensitivity that we need to have to welcome them in a respectable manner and design such that the respect comes through design strategies. I mean, I don't need to delineate those by saying, you make it spacious, let them breathe, give them light, ventilation, etc. We know it all. But it needs to be a lot more conscious effort that we need to make in terms of, developers. Probably there is a lot more business entrepreneurial opportunities that they have that they can venture into. Um, there is a lot of scope within the scheme. There is a lot of scope within the law right now to understand the current market scenario, the existing free market scenario in the rental housing domain. So I think learnings from those to build on the law itself and to build on an ethos or an ecosystem which works and functions together is something that everybody needs to work together, and it needs to work in everybody's benefit. The landlords, the tenants, the developers, the scheme providers, the users themselves, all of them need to benefit from the scheme together, and that needs to come together at some point in time. So I think largely speaking, probably this policy would evolve over time and would benefit for everyone. I think, yeah,
Great, ma'am. So much light on this policy, which is just a new policy. Which is the first time we are having something on rental, and it's going to evolve. And I really wish that you are part of that evolution, because you worked on this in this area, and probably you are an urban designer and also you're teaching. So probably you'll contribute to evolving it in a way that encompasses all the possible ways of looking at it. So for all the viewers are really glad, because we've talked about something which is latest, which is new. And I really want to thank you for giving time and talking about your paper, about rental housing, about the history, and about so many other factors related to it. So thank you very much.
thanks a lot.
While me do my two-step.